If you don't understand keyframes, every animation you make is gonna feel stiff and unnatural. But once you learn the 3 levels of keyframes, creating smooth and professional animations becomes surprisingly easy. Let's start with the first level inside the inspector panel. Okay, so the first thing that I want to make is just a simple bounce-in animation like this. I chose to do it with the Davinci Resolve logo, but you can use any PNG or even text. But before we even start animating, make sure that when you come into project settings that your timeline frame rate is set to 60 seconds. This is really important if you want a smooth and clean animation. Okay, when that's done, we can get going. So let me just go ahead and drag in a completely fresh PNG of a Davinci Resolve logo. Come into the inspector panel right here at the top, and the only things that we're gonna animate with this PNG is the zoom value and the position value. So go ahead and keyframe those in the beginning of your clip and all the way at the end of my clip. My clip is only 1 second long, so if you want the same as me, make sure that your clip is exactly 1 second. If you've never worked with keyframes before, all we're really doing is we're telling Davinci to make some sort of change in between the first second and the last second of our clip. But we still haven't added any change yet. So let me add my first change, which is I want to make the logo smaller. I think something like this would look good. And now, boom, we already have a simple bounce in. The next thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab the Y value and drag the Y value so my logo goes off screen. So now we should see my logo bouncing into screen, just like that. But as you can see, it still doesn't look that good compared to my other one. So let's look at them side by side. This is the first one, and the second one is like quicker and more bouncy. How did I do that? Well, I'm glad you asked. Just click your PNG, and then we want to come into the keyframes tab right here. And then also make sure that you click the keyframes and curves button to come into the same window as me. And already we can make a bunch of changes to our keyframes just in this tab. So go ahead and select every keyframe, and then if you click this arrow icon right here, you're gonna see a whole bunch of options. So for example, if I pick ease in and ease out, now the curve changes. So now the logo is gonna bounce in slow, then it's gonna speed up and then slow down at the end. So as you can see, that already looks really smooth. But you can go ahead and customize this completely to your liking. So for example, if I want to change the position Y to go quicker in the beginning, I can drag position Y up to speed up the graph in the beginning. So look at how quick it is now in the beginning. Boom, it's going up quickly, but as you can see, we didn't change the zoom. So the zoom is still the same speed. I can also click the, for example, zoom, right here, zoom Y, and then change this. So now it will change the value of the zoom as well. So now it zooms in quick as well. And you can customize in here and just play around with the curves and really get a feel for how to animate. However, if you want to take your animations to the next level, you need to learn Fusion. Fusion is life in Davinci Resolve. So go ahead and click on Effects and then grab a Fusion composition. For me, actually, I'm just gonna delete everything right here because I don't need it anymore. Fusion is much better. And I'm just gonna go ahead and make my Fusion composition 1 second. So I'm going to grab my Fusion composition and make it 1 second. Click your Fusion composition and then click on Fusion at the bottom. I'm gonna open up my media pool right here on the top left and then grab my logo once again and then connect it to the media out. And then once you do that, you should see the logo pop up here on the right. If you've never worked in Fusion before, you can change the viewer right here. So if you prefer it to only be one viewer, go ahead and click that one. I do like the double screen though, so I'm gonna keep this. And the reason why I like it is because I usually click the beginning of my clip and then I click 1 on my keyboard. And that way I can see the changes that I'm gonna make. So here I have my logo. Now I'm gonna make a whole bunch of changes here on the timeline in Fusion, if you can call it timeline. And then here we're gonna see the end product. The first thing that we're gonna need is a transform node. The transform node is one of the most important nodes inside of Fusion. So come up right here and you're gonna see transform node. Just drag it onto screen and then attach it to the composition. Now inside of the inspector panel, you should see a whole bunch of options here for customization. And these are all changes that we can make. So for me, I want it to come from the left hand side and then come into screen quickly like that. So I'm just gonna grab it and drag it off screen. And then I'm gonna come to the beginning of my timeline and create a keyframe. Then I'm gonna come all the way to the end of my timeline, create another keyframe, then drag this back in. And I'm actually just gonna write 0.5 to make it precise. Also, I don't want my logo to be this big, so I'm gonna drag down the size. And now we have it bouncing in like that. Just like we did in the previous level inside the Keyframes tab, we can click the Spline tab right here and actually change the spline of the transform node. So right now it's just a linear curve. This is a bit too slow for me. So I'm just gonna create a box around the line right here and then click S on my keyboard to smooth the graph. Then I'm gonna grab this handle right here and drag it up and drag this handle out like this. And now you should have a curve that looks like this. So now it should go quickly and then slowly. So now it just bounces in like that to the screen and it already looks way better. To add the glow effect to the logo, click on your Davinci Resolve logo, click Shift Space and then search for glow right here. And you should see the glow node, the GLO. Click add and now you can see the logo is already glowing. However, I want to keyframe this. I don't want it to just constantly look like this. It actually looks quite bad. What I like to do sometimes is just look at what if I change the colors? This looks sick, for example. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick this one. So I just toggled off the green. I'm gonna turn off the glow and then I'm gonna go to the beginning of my clip, keyframe glow. And then let's go to the middle of our clip. Go ahead and turn up glow 0.8. I'm gonna go 0.85 here. If I can hit it, there we go. And now I'm gonna go to the end of my clip and then put 0 here again. And let's see how it looks. Looks pretty good. One more thing that you can do to make it look just a bit better is come to the transform node right here and then go into settings. And inside settings, if you turn on motion blur, now it's just gonna slide in with a bit of motion blur. So look at this. You can see it's slightly blurry and just that makes it look more clean. So boom. And that is actually it for level 2. Now we're gonna move on to the big leagues, which is 3D animation. This is where you're gonna go from just an average animation to something really sick. And don't worry, 3D isn't that hard once you learn the basics. Okay, so once again, let's grab a new Fusion composition and let's make it 1 second long, just like the other ones. To make a basic 3D environment, what you're always gonna need is first a render node. And the smart thing is, everything that we're gonna need is over here at the right hand side. So I'm just gonna drag in the render node that I need and then attach it to the media out. Inside of the render node, make sure that you change the render type from software render to hardware render. Don't ask me why, this is just gonna make the rendering process better. Next, we're gonna need a Merge 3D. So grab a Merge 3D and connect it to the render node. This is where we're gonna create our 3D environment. But first we actually need a camera to look inside the 3D environment. So also go ahead and grab a camera 3D and then attach that to the Merge 3D. Then I would also recommend that you click the Merge 3D and click 1 on your keyboard. And now we can see the 3D environment is over here. The last thing that we're gonna need is a image plane 3D. Image planes is pretty much just what you're gonna need to put something on. So as you can see, I have an image right here. I can pretty much put anything on this that I want. Like let's say I want a background. Boom, now we have a black background and I can change the color and whatever. So let's say I want a 4-corner color right here. Let me just change some colors. I'm just picking some random colors right here. So to me this looks pretty good. Next up, I'm gonna grab in the animation I just created. So let me just show you. This was the animation we just created before and I just dragged that in. And we're gonna add another image plane 3D and connect that to the merge as well. Because now when we connect our animation, you can see that the animation comes into the 3D environment. So if I move the camera back right now, we're gonna see that we have the Davinci Resolve animation and we have the background. And the last thing that you need to do is just pretty much make sure that everything fits properly. Okay, I have something that I'm happy with now. Got the logo bouncing into screen like this. Now the last thing that I want you to learn is how to add the camera movement. So to do that, just click on the camera 3D and then you can click the transform button right here. And then you can actually change all of these values on the translation and the rotation axis. So let's say I want my camera to rotate. I can just animate the keyframes right here, go to the end, and then I can turn my camera if I want. But that doesn't look good, so maybe something like this. To be honest, it looks a bit weird. Let me try something different. Maybe just a simple zoom out with the Z axis. Just zooming out a bit, see how it looks. That looks a lot better. Boom. Clean, clean.